You're at a bar. Someone's screaming at a screen. Grown men are hugging strangers. Your coworker just threw a nacho, and you're sitting there thinking, what the hell is happening right now? Like, genuinely, what are we doing here? If that's you, welcome. You're about to find out why you're wired completely differently than everyone losing their mind over whether a ball went into a net, and why that difference has almost nothing to do with sports. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. People who don't care about sports aren't missing some passion gene. They're running a completely different operating system for emotional safety. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most sports fans will tell you it's about the game, the strategy, the athleticism, the drama. And sure, maybe, but what they're really doing is something way more primal. They're outsourcing their emotional regulation to strangers in uniforms. They're letting 22 people they've never met determine whether they have a good week or a bad week. And for them, that works. That feels good. But for you, that probably sounds like actual psychological warfare. Here's why. You almost definitely learned early that caring too much about things you can't control is how you get destroyed. Maybe you had a chaotic childhood. Maybe you loved someone unreliable. Maybe you just paid attention during a few too many disappointments, and your brain went, okay, new rule. We're not doing this anymore. We're not handing our emotional state to random chance. We're keeping that in-house. So when everyone else is having a collective meltdown over a game, you're not being cold, you're being consistent. You already decided you're not playing Russian roulette with your nervous system. Sports just happens to be the most visible place that decision shows up. And then everyone thinks you're weird. But let's get specific about what's actually happening in your brain, because this is where it gets interesting. There's this concept in psychology called locus of control. Sounds boring. It's not. It's basically whether you think you control your life or life controls you. Sports fans live in this beautiful, magical space where they genuinely believe their lucky socks matter, where sitting in the right chair can change the outcome of a game happening 3 states away. It's not logical. It's not supposed to be. It's tribal magic. It's connection. It's meaning-making. You rejected that entire framework, not because you're smarter, because you can't afford it. You've seen what happens when you emotionally invest in things beyond your control, and it didn't go well. So you built a wall, and that wall happens to keep out sports, but it also keeps out a bunch of other chaotic, beautiful human experiences that require surrender, which is why you're lonely at the Super Bowl party. Everyone's experiencing what this French sociologist Émile Durkheim called collective effervescence, that electric group energy when everyone's feeling the same thing at the same time. It's intoxicating, it's bonding, it's how humans have survived for thousands of years, and you're standing there completely outside the fishbowl, watching it happen, unable to get in, not because you don't want connection, because the price of admission is caring about something that makes no rational sense to care about, and your brain won't let you pay it. So instead, you go home and read a book about the psychology of sports fans and feel superior for 3 hours. I see you. Here's the uncomfortable truth, though. You do have obsessions. You absolutely have things you care about with irrational intensity. You'll stay up until 4 in the morning researching some niche topic. You'll have opinions about film directors that border on religious. You'll get genuinely upset about the ending of a book series. The difference is control. You obsess over things you can master, create, or personally influence. Reading, writing, building, learning. These feel safe because the outcome depends on you. Sports fandom requires surrendering to fate, to chance, to the performance of people who don't know you exist. And that surrender is the part your nervous system marked as hazardous material years ago. If this is making too much sense right now, hit subscribe because we're going deeper and you're going to want to follow this thread all the way down. Let's talk about what you're actually protecting. It's not just peace of mind, it's identity. Because sports culture doesn't just ask you to watch a game, it asks you to perform, to yell, to suffer visibly, to make someone else's victory part of who you are. And you've probably spent enough of your life performing expected emotions in other contexts, at family dinners, at jobs you hated, in relationships that required you to be smaller than you were. The idea of adding one more performance, one more place where you fake enthusiasm because everyone else is doing it, feels like betraying the last honest part of yourself. So you don't. And people think you're arrogant, or cold, or boring, when really you're just tired of pretending. But here's where you need to be careful, because sometimes the story you tell yourself about why you don't care about sports isn't the whole truth. Sometimes you intellectualize it. You call it tribalism, distraction, bread and circuses for the masses. And you're not entirely wrong, but you're also not entirely honest. Because part of you sees the joy in that stadium, the pure, uncomplicated passion, the way people connect instantly over shared team loyalty, and some small part of you wishes you could let yourself have that without every defense mechanism you own lighting up like a dashboard warning light. You're not superior to sports fans. You're just scared of different things. They're scared of isolation. You're scared of surrender. Both fears make sense. Both fears have costs. The cost for you is that you live in a world where sports fandom is the default language of casual human connection. It's how coworkers bond, how families gather, the safe topic when conversation dies, and your inability to speak that language makes you feel like you're failing a test everyone else passed in kindergarten. But look at what you built instead. You've created an emotional world where your happiness doesn't depend on a scoreboard, where your sense of self isn't tied to whether strangers won or lost. You've set boundaries at a neurological level that most people don't even know are possible. That's not weakness, that's just a different kind of strength, one that's much quieter, much lonelier, but no less valid. And maybe that's the real answer here. Sports fandom and sports indifference are both coping mechanisms for the same impossible problem, which is how do you find meaning and connection in a world where most things are completely beyond your control? One group bonds through shared emotional chaos. The other group protects themselves by refusing the chaos entirely. Neither is wrong, neither is enlightened. They're just different bets on the same roulette wheel of being human. So if you're the person who feels nothing while everyone else is having a religious experience over a touchdown, you're not broken. You're not missing out. You're just honest about where you're willing to place your heart. You've learned that sometimes emotional safety means sitting out the ritual. Then yeah, that makes you the odd one out, but it also means you built a life where your inner peace doesn't rise and fall based on whether 22 people you've never met successfully moved an object across a line. That's not apathy. That's architecture. Careful, deliberate, self-protective architecture. And while it might mean you spend Super Bowl Sunday reading alone in your apartment, it also means you've refused to hand your emotional remote control to anyone else. There's power in that. There's also loneliness. Both things are true. Leave a comment if this hit different. Tell me what you obsess over instead of sports. Tell me if you've ever felt guilty for not caring about the things you're supposed to care about. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because we're just getting started on explaining the parts of you that don't fit anywhere else. You're not alone in feeling alone. You're just watching a different game, one where the only player that matters is you.